Well, welcome viewers. Thank you for joining me. Dr. Jason W. Morrison, Theologist, New South Wales, Australia. A very interesting and very transparent story on the sale of an Anglican church here in Australia. The difference here, I believe, is the accountability that the Anglican Church is stepping up to with the sexual abuse redress. Now, we know those that follow the Jehovah Witness-ism religion that they're selling kingdom halls right across the world at a phenomenal rate, unprecedented rate. They're not saying that they're being sold for the sexual abuse victims or anything like that, and I don't think they are. But the difference here is the Anglican Church is being transparent in its accountability and responsibility and commitments to the Australian sexual abuse redress scheme. Now, unfortunately, the members of this church have no idea of the enormity, the Goliath matter pertaining to the victims of sexual abuse within these organisations, and in this instance, the Anglican Church. And I would ask those that follow the channel to share this video, because what I'm trying to bring out here is the organisations had some terrible things happen within it, but they are being transparent. They're making themselves transparent and vulnerable in the sense of their accountability and responsibility, which is what actually a religious organisation should do. Now, it's a very sad set of circumstances in the fact that this heritage building has to be sold for the Anglican Church to maintain their commitments to the sexual abuse survivors within their organisation. But the poor old Christians in this church have no clue of what this all means.
That has parishioners up in arms. Their beloved church that stood the test of time for more than 170 years could be sold off. Why? The local diocese needs to pay compensation to victims of abuse, but the locals won't see their church go without a fight.
Now this isn't the only Anglican church that's being sold. There are other instances of this in Australia, but this is a very good story because it's making it transparent.
Just beautiful, isn't it? It's one of the oldest churches in New South Wales and the lifeblood of the small community where it sits in the central west of the state. But now, all of this is up for sale. Not because of the dwindling numbers of parishioners, but to pay the bills for the sins of the fathers.
Now that's also an interesting point. The Jehovah Witness-ism movement is losing members also at a precedented rate. And that's the reason why they're closing their kingdom halls. But in this instance, it's not a case of whether the members are there or not. The Anglican Church is making it a case of accountability and responsibility, and they're shutting down, they're selling this church, along with others as well. And I find it very refreshing that they're transparent about it. This story headline actually is called The Sins of the Fathers, which is a bit of a pun, meaning the fathers in clergy.
They need to raise money to pay restitution to the fund for the victims of the pedophile priests.
It cannot leave the town.
And these folk say they are paying the price for those dreadful crimes.
Well, the reality is they are.
Something's been taken away from you, you know. It's your history. This is your history, and it's got to be kept.
The village of Carcoar is praying for the survival of its historic St Paul's Church.
It's my family's footsteps are all here. Way back to, 1800 and something.
Some of our people got baptised here in 1854, some of our family. And I got married here, and my mother, father got married here. My sons and daughters got married here.
Yeah, but unfortunately people were sexually abused there as well, and this is a consequence of that. This is just a sad consequence of when things go awry through theological abuse.
St Paul's is no ordinary church. It is, to all of us, a significant piece of our colonial history. So much so, it has a heritage order on it. But to pay the lawyers and compensate the victims, St Paul's may soon be sold to become someone's trendy home, a B&B, or perhaps another coffee shop.
Now, I honestly don't believe that the Anglican Church needs to sell properties to find the money for the sexual abuse redress. I think they've probably got enough money to cover all that. But the reaction to all of this is, I guess in a sense, they're punishing themselves in selling off their properties. I don't think, as in the case of the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society and the others, they really don't need to. They've got the money, they just don't want to pay it.
Fear Libby and Eric.
It'd all be just sold or thrown out. The stained glass windows are magnificent and they'd just be pulled out.
And there's so much history in here, isn't there? I mean, where we're sitting now.
Yeah.
These were from England, you were telling me.
They were brought out from England, from Thomas Isley, the early settler that opened up the whole land through this area.
Carcoar has been classified by the National Trust due to the large number of intact 19th century buildings along its streets. And so the village has become a tourist haven, and its church in particular popular for out-of-town weddings.
They stay in the B&Bs, the hotels, have meals around town, and they usually make a weekend of it.
Because Carcoar's future is based on its history.
Yeah.
That's what's going to bring the tourism. It's a tourist town. And it's the tourism of the buildings such as this in Carcoar that is going to keep people coming and keeping the community alive.
They've always known the centrepiece of that tourism was St Paul's. That's why the community has paid for its upkeep.
There has been over $200,000 raised in recent years. Well, I say recent, over the last 10, 15 years. And then we had the spire fixed, and that's all been done by the community and for the community.
Now, does that ring a bell? You know how the Jehovah Witness organisation gets their members to build the kingdom halls and put money into the kingdom halls. Well, these people have just put $200,000 into this church. I did some background research and it's true. They had to do up the bell and all that sort of aspect of the church up on the top of it. And they've put $200,000 in. Now, the Anglican Church and all other churches that are taking people's money have no conscience in using it to meet their own end, whether it be to the detriment of the people that have given it or not. And that really, that upsets me. And I can understand how these people are upset as well. We're starting to see a lot of this in the Jehovah Witness organisation movement. But I do have to say for the Anglicans, the Anglican organisation, at least it's being transparent as to its motives in selling the church. The Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, or the whatever you want to call them, because they're starting to change their names now to try and dodge all these accountabilities to sexual abuse within their organisation, are not admitting that they're selling off the kingdom halls to meet redress, or not redress, to meet, in their case, the court cases that have gone against them to the tune of millions and millions of dollars, and they're just not admitting it. The thing about the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society or the Jehovah Witnesses is they're very, very brutal in their denial and lies as to the motives in which they're doing things. And that's what makes it a very evil and theologically abusive organisation, unlike in this case the Anglican Church, even though their members are upset. At least they've told them the right reasons as to why they're doing this. There's a massive difference in that.
Not the church, the locals.
No, the locals.
Recently, locals fundraised over $20,000 to get the organ repaired.
Good job.
And now the church wants to sell it from under them for a few $100,000.
But if they're so hell-bent on trying to raise money, I'm sure they've got some big city properties that could raise a hell of a lot more money than what this would fetch.
But there are many unanswered questions they have.
Great-great-aunt is buried under the chancellery here. They're great-aunt and uncles, her children. My grandmother's here.
Inside the church lay the remains of Louisa Katie Cargill, and her descendant George King says she had a connection to our first Prime Minister.
She was friends with Edmund Barton. She went to the opening of Parliament in 1901. She accompanied Edmund and Lady Barton to the coronation of Edward VII in in England.
Her dying wish was to be buried in her beloved church.
I'm not sure anyone would want
This
to live
is
in
the
a building
gravesite.
with
With a body underneath.
grave inside it.
Ron Murray is St Paul's warden. Every day for 40 years, he has opened the doors and closed them at sunset for the tourists and those seeking contemplation.
So there's...
If I was a police officer, which I'm not, I'd want to have a sit down with Ron. If he's been around this church for 40 years, I'd say there'd be things that Ron would know that nobody else would know that could possibly help in some cases that, you know, have not been resolved or brought to light. I know that's a very sad attitude and not a good way of looking at things, but that's just how it works, isn't it?
graves scattered throughout this
there's
little
one
hill.
there, one there, one there.
No headstones?
No, because they were wooden crosses.
See, now this bloke even knows where the graves are that haven't got any headstones to tell you where they are. This guy would know stuff that nobody else would know about this church.
Oh, long gone.
Both
So
positive
what would
and
become
negative.
the operating cemetery and Ron's desire to be buried here?
This is a place where I belong. This is the place where I feel most at ease at.
This is home.
Yeah, it's home.
But if this is all sold, you won't be able to be buried
We're
here.
stuffed.
But the village knows one answer. Whoever takes their church won't receive a warm welcome.
I don't think any of us would.
Well, that's real Christian, isn't it? This is another one of my arguments. They're saying that the people that buy this are not going to be received very well. Well, it's not their fault. They're targeting now their anger at the wrong people.
Would embrace the person, so they'd have a tough time coming here to settle.
Terrible.
So what has the Anglican Church done to comfort its flock?
We've never seen the powers that be. They don't talk to us as a general community about it.
The church
No, they won't. See, this is what we've all got to understand. What's wrong with my thing here? It just won't work. Come on, work. There. No.
told us it is
in the process of meeting its obligations to survivors of sexual abuse. The only means that the diocese has to fulfil this responsibility is the sale of its assets.
Carcoar is...
I just want to play that again because I think that's very significant. Not worried about their anger.
The process of meeting its obligations to survivors of sexual abuse. The only means that the diocese has to fulfil this responsibility is the sale of its assets.
Carcoar is looking for divine intervention, or perhaps a wealthy benefactor who will make it a community non-denomination church. Until that happens, they refuse to allow a forced sale sign to be put out front.
And we fight.
Yeah.
We fight for what we believe in.
And we're not going to give up. The powers that be think they're going to get it, but they've got a bit of a fight on their hands, I'll tell you that much.
Well, given the reaction from the community, the church now says a decision on the sale won't be made until the end of next month, and we'll let you know how it goes.
Well, we'll keep an eye on that, won't we? What's happened here? We need to stop that. That's the only way we're going to do this is get rid of it. Bear with me for a minute. Close this down. I did a search, if you have a look here, at some of the stuff going on. I'll just show you. Church for sale. Hang on. Church for sale. And there's several of these taking place. Here's one, the Tasmanian Anglicans to sell church for redress, see? So Tasmania's church has been voted in favour of selling more than 100 properties to help raise $8.6 million needed to fund the redress of survivors of sexual abuse. So they're selling over 100 properties. Now, again, I want to make this clear. At least the Anglicans are being transparent as to the motive behind selling these churches. So I would like the ones that are interested in sexual abuse survivors, in comparatively speaking about the Jehovah Witness Church, who have made no accountability or responsibility efforts whatsoever. In fact, they've fought and been in denial in the most ugliest and evil of ways. You do have to applaud the Anglican Church for their efforts, and I would ask, in this particular case, for those that are trying to show the difference between being a responsible religious organisation, an accountable religious organisation, a transparent religious organisation, as in this case with the Anglican Church in Australia, as to the behaviour of the Jehovah Witness, Watchtower, Bible and Tract Society, or they've got so many names now you can't follow the trail unless you're right into it, how they're just not being accountable or transparent or responsible at all. This is Dr. Jason W. Morrison, Theologist, New South Wales, Australia. Bye for now. Yeah, Dr. Jason Morrison, Theologist again. I just want to say thank you for watching the videos, and I hope you got plenty of self-rediscovery and freedom out of it. If you watched it on YouTube, please share or like, maybe even comment. If you watched it on Facebook, like, comment, share. But most of all, get out and live. This isn't a rehearsal. You've got a one-off life. Don't let your loyalty and your faithfulness blind you to the life that you should be experiencing. Till the next video, thank you for watching, and bye for now.